So in this video, we are going to be continuing to take a look at a scenario where civilization starts over. We are now on episode 66 of the series, and in the last episode we saw a few pretty important events take place all throughout the world. We saw the expansion of China as they united with the Beijing country. We saw a union take place up here in North America. We saw the North American fascist bloc expand, and much more. But if you guys do end up enjoying this episode, please be sure to like and subscribe. Now, before we get into the video, I do want to mention one thing, and that is that there is a new Discord server. So basically, the old one is going to be ditched soon because I lost access to the account that I had owner on it, so that basically that server, there's like no one in charge. So there will be a link to the new server in the description, so if you guys want to, you can go ahead and leave the current one and join this new one. But yeah, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the video. So the first thing I want to talk about has actually got something to do with the alliances layer, and that is we are going to be seeing two countries decide to go ahead and leave an alliance. And the alliance that is going to be left is the Our Alliance, and the countries leaving it are going to be the Congo and Zambia. These two countries in the more modern times have had a very interesting relation with Egypt in terms of the fact they are kind of more so leaning away. During the anarchist war, they did not like how their alliance was kind of being urged to participate. They saw this as something that could have easily been avoided. And also there might be some other motives for why these guys are not super friendly with Egypt anymore. But either way, these two leave. This was a long decided process, and also I just want to mention, at this point Zambia is more so under the influence of the Congo than they are Egypt, so that is why they kind of went with them. And this will actually be leading to something very soon. However, we will actually be staying with the Our Alliance because, despite the fact that they have just lost two members, they are going to be gaining one pretty much immediately. Because there was a country that has actually been thinking of joining the Our Alliance for a while, and just about 2 weeks after these guys leave, this country will be joining, and this country is going to be the Oman country. This country is basically a puppet of Qatar. They installed their own kind of fascist government. If we have a look at the ideology, so we can see this is basically a separate part of the Council of Qatar that's ruling this country. These people are fine with it. They're actually, if we take a look at the religion map, and I know this doesn't show ethnicity, but these guys are the same ethnicity as the Qatari people, so these guys are all fine with that. But they are going to go ahead and join just like so. Next up, moving on to economical alliances, sticking with the alliances for now, we have to move back over to the European Commonwealth because another country is going to go ahead and join, and the country that will be joining the European Commonwealth today is going to be the blue central Swiss country. These guys have been very neutral for a long time. In fact, I believe the last time they were involved in a conflict was all the way back in the Angevinic Wars. However, they just go ahead and join this in order to increase their economical strength and their stability, although I say that, yeah, they're doing fine. Oh yeah, also I updated the stability layer again, so if you guys want like an updated overview, then here it is right here. Now in the last episode, and this was the very end thing, I mentioned how India went ahead and joined the Chinese Economic Alliance. Also, I still don't have an official name for this thing, I literally just call it like the Chinese Economic Alliance. So if you guys do want to go ahead and submit a fictional name for this alliance, please do go ahead. I'll be checking all of the comments for that in the comments section of this video, so if you guys want to go ahead and choose the name for this alliance, please feel free to go ahead and do so. But anyway, why am I talking about this? Well, that is because there is going to be a new country joining in on this economical alliance, and that country is going to be the Rose Pink Indian country. These guys joining is a little bit concerning for Egypt because obviously they just had that pretty big diplomatic dispute over India joining, and now immediately after, China is adding another Indian country. Now, while this one is nowhere near as strong as Central India, these guys are still definitely a pretty good economical situation, and them joining is really expanding China's influence, which Egypt is starting to get a little bit concerned about, and this is actually going to be causing them to do something which we will see soon. Don't worry, it's not anything crazy, it's a very peaceful event, but still, it is definitely going to be causing something. Next up, we need to move over to the Ukrainian country, because unfortunately there, something is happening. We have a huge drought coming across through the Dnieper River, and this is where a very large chunk of the population basin of the Ukrainian country is. And the monarchy of Ukraine doesn't do fantastic at kind of fixing this issue. And this has actually been something coming into place more recently in Ukraine that I haven't really been talking about. But the fact that Ukraine is a constitutional monarchy shows obviously they have a parliament, and their parliament is very bad. Essentially, what it is the people. They vote these guys into power because of what they say that they're going to do, but then they just don't do that, and also the people don't even get to choose what the parliament does. The parliament, when they get elected, they just choose whatever, no matter what the people say, and their policy has been becoming increasingly unpopular. And this has actually been causing some kind of figures to gain notoriety in the Ukrainian country, and more specifically, a lot of dictatorial figures. These people are saying that they can bring stability and order back into Ukraine, and they can fix what is clearly not going right with the government. And they also state that the monarchy is a sham. It's literally just a constitutional monarchy. They have no power. Literally, all that's doing is taking money that could be used for other stuff, like fixing the agriculture problems, and they're just giving that money to the constitutional monarchy just because they were in control of the country like 1,000 years ago. We do not like that. So yeah, get us power. And would you say that timing is perfect? Because just as a second drought hits from the Dnieper River, we have a huge rebellion taking place. We have a few dictatorial figures breaking out, but one of them has a huge amount of reach over the eastern portions of Ukraine. This is kind of the poorer areas, and he also has a lot of reach over the areas hit hard by this crisis. We also have another kind of powerful kind of figure coming into control of this western region, and this guy is going to quickly consolidate his power. These peoples over here are technically Carpathian. They are Carpathian ethnicity, and they kind of just want their own sort of ethno-state. And seeing the chaos going on in the actual Ukrainian country, they just go ahead and break away, and they take control over the provinces that they claim should be a part of their country, and that is going to be these ones right over here. Moving back over to the central Ukrainian area, we have a separate faction breaking down over here in the Black Sea. However, these guys are very weak. And at this point, we have the main dictatorial region over here coming into power and cutting the Ukrainian country over half. And when I say coming into power, they come into power in this region over here. And they even get extremely close to Crimea. Moving back over to western Ukraine, these people are very quickly joining up. Like the lands they're invading, about half of the people who kind of would be willing to fight, instead of joining up with these guys, they just go ahead and join up with these people. They view them as a much better leadership kind of faction. And it's at this point where the capital area is fully cut off from the mainland of Europe. All of this area over here is going to go ahead and fall. However, not only to the dictatorial group, we also have the Orange country going ahead and invading in. And this is actually pretty shocking because, the Orange country, they haven't really done that much in a while. And they kind of just, they're kind of outsiders of the general world stage. They're really kind of, they don't do anything. They just kind of sit here and be like, oh, we lost World War II and then we lost World War III. We don't like it, and they want to get some of their land back. So yeah, they're going to go ahead and invade. Now, I actually can't remember if they lost this land in World War II or III. I'm pretty sure it was World War II. So they haven't had this land in a while, so it might be a little difficult to re-assimilate it, especially considering a lot of people here actually want to join up with this guy. But these guys do not want to fight up with this country, as that would not be a very favourable matchup, so they just kind of let it go. Moving down in the south, we have the dictatorial faction just blasting these guys. They get absolutely destroyed, and then they begin to sweep all of this southwestern region of Ukraine. Eventually, they meet up with these guys, who they go ahead and sign a non-aggression pact with. We also have the green team just kind of, going in and sneakily taking a province. They want this city, and I believe they actually had this city in the past, and yep, now they have it back. So very sneaky. We have this final area over here finally coming under the control of the dictatorial faction, and with that, the only region left is going to be the Crimean areas. However, we have something pretty interesting happening here. We, because of the fact that all of the Ukrainian army has kind of been squeezed down here, we have these guys really struggling to move into the actual peninsula. Of course, the only area actually connected is like right over here, and I think there might be some other connection points, but it's a very small gap to get into here. And the air force of this country not being very well set up, they really struggle to gain aerial superiority, and they don't have any naval superiority because the Ukrainians had moved all of their ships into Sevastopol, so they're kind of stuck. And very unfortunately for these guys, they are going to kind of be forced into just white piecing out as they struggle to invade this land, and the people are like, okay, we won, can we like stop fighting now? It's just not going to benefit us anymore. Can we just like dip and call it a day? And the dictator is going to go ahead and agree to this. And yeah, so just like that, we can go ahead and take a look at this peace treaty. So this is what we are going to see for our peace treaty here. So first of all, we have the main kind of dictatorial movement getting control over all of this central land right here. And the rest is going to kind of change hands a little. First of all, we have the kind of turquoise-ish country going ahead and getting control over this area up here. Next up, we have the green Russian country going ahead and annexing this one province. This is the province they invaded during the war. And finally, we have the orange country going ahead and annexing these group of provinces over here. And of course, we also have the Ukrainian country, which I'm now going to be calling Crimea, be reduced all the way down here to the Crimean Peninsula. Now, in regards to the capital of this new Ukrainian country, I think I'm going to be placing it right over here. So yeah, this is where these guys are going to be stationed in. Oh, also, in regards to capitals, because I forgot to add these guys a capital, it will be right here, and also, yes, I did change their colour to red. I think it just kind of blends in a little nicer there. Next up, we need to move over to the anarchist territory, because some stuff is going on over here at the moment. And that is that the Baikalians, the Egyptians, and Volga are really struggling to quiet this territory down. And that is for a couple of reasons. First of all, well, the occupation isn't going fantastic. If we take a look at the stability layer, we can see this stability has stayed at very unstable. The anarchists before their war, they were kind of a little unstable, but now the occupied territory even is extremely unstable, and we actually see several anarchist breakaways take place, and this mostly takes place in the Volgan and the Egyptian sectors because they have less control over this area. Of course, Volga, they kind of have like a foreign military force. They bring these troops in through air, and Egypt kind of the same thing, but they're even further away. But Baikal is right there, so in the Baikalian revolts, it's only very minor and on the border of the Egyptian claim land, which is kind of where another group is. But yeah, we have these guys go ahead and break away, and they are quickly going to be gaining power in the southern occupied region, taking over most of Egypt's claim. And in Volga we have this group organising, however it does begin to get pushed back on. At this point we have the Baikalians fully mobilising up their military, and they begin to move into this land. We have the Baikal forces moving into this group over here, and then they begin to push into Egypt's territory. At this point, we have the 3-Point Star Alliance be mobilized, and I'm not going to lie, that basically means it's over for these guys. But the 3-Point Star Alliance is mobilized, more specifically Volga and Atirau. These guys begin to move their troops through. The brown team is forced to let them move their troops through, and I guess also Caspia, but they're in the 3-Point Star Alliance. So we have these guys coming in and quickly managing to beat down this group. And we also have these guys go ahead and push in on this main anarchist group down here in the south. That is until we have Egyptian troops making some airdrops in the Afghanistan mountains, and these guys begin to consolidate up, and eventually they capture the de facto capital of this movement in this major city, and the movement is going to be wiped out. So that was a pretty quick little event there, but it's really showing that this region is still very unstable, and these countries begin to look towards other ways of kind of better subjugating this area and ensuring its stability. Next up, we need to move over to Europe, because the Dutch, they're going to be on the move again. And this time it's going to be a little bit of a more peaceful kind of way of expanding. However, it's still, aggressive expansionism, as they are going to be going over to the Genevan country, and they are basically going to be saying, yo, we have a claim over you. And the claim that they're going to be making, which is like a disputed land territory claim, is going to be for this chunk of land right over here. They basically say, this is rightfully our land. If we take a look at the religion layer, this land is part of the kind of core Dutch religion, and it's our land, we want it back. Now, the Geneva country did kind of just fight a war with the Dutch, however, I did say during that war, and also that war was the invasion of France, for those of you who forgot, but I did say during that war they were not working cooperatively together, they were kind of just on the same side, and if you guys remember, I did also mention in the peace treaty that the Dutch kind of limited the land that Geneva got, and yeah, this is kind of why. Yeah, so the Genevans are going to be thinking of this for about 2 seconds, and then they're going to be immediately saying yes, because the Dutch said, if you don't accept this, we will be invading and occupying this province as well in the north. So they are going to be going ahead and kind of being threatened into giving this land over to the Dutch. And that is going to look just something like this, and the Dutch once again go ahead and expand their borders. We're actually going to be staying in like the exact same spot because a country the country is about to get blasted. The Brittany country formed out of France when the Dutch were invading them, and one thing I mentioned, these guys were being extremely heavily supported by the Dutch during that war, and that is really showing because these guys are having some extreme troubles setting up their government. Their economy has already collapsed. Hyperinflation is coming in. The EC has offered to get involved, but they have rejected this, which was probably not the smart move. And it gets to the point where about half of the country is just like, yeah, we want to rejoin up with France. So we have a huge movement breaking out down here in the south and also in this kind of northern area over here. And these guys immediately just begin invading in, and these guys are like, yeah, we want to join up with France. France may or may not have had something to do with funding these guys, and they absolutely did. But yeah, they also cross in as well, and they quickly invade the country. And yeah, this country didn't even last 10 years. It is reabsorbed back into France just like so. Now, to be honest, the Dutch, they could not care less. They literally just funded that rebellion as a distraction. It wasn't supposed to be like an actual ally in the future or anything. They're going to condemn France for doing this, even though, you know, you literally just did the same. But next up, we are going to be moving elsewhere, because it is at this point where there's going to be a pretty big war taking place, and this is probably going to be what we are taking a look at for the rest of the video. But this war is going to be taking place down in Africa, and it's been a long time coming, but because of some recent events and previous events, it's only been able to happen kind of in the more recent times. You know, a few years ago this war would have been impossible to happen, and you will see why in a few seconds. As we see the formation of a huge coalition, and this is going to be known as the Anti-Congolese Coalition. Essentially, what this is a bunch of countries who are salty about the Congo's existence and are salty that they had beat them in previous wars, all coming together for a huge just gang war against these guys. They all just gang up on the Congo, and I'm not going to lie, the Congo is in a very bad situation here. Now, this kind of leads into what I was saying earlier. This wouldn't have been able to happen recently because the Congo was obviously protected by the Arrow Alliance, but seeing the opportunity to move in and take revenge, with the Congo literally just going ahead and leaving the Arrow Alliance, yeah, these guys are going to take huge advantage of that, and they are all going to be simultaneously declaring war on the Congo. This had been something in the making for a while. It's been about 7 months since the Congo left the Arrow Alliance, so that is why this is only happening now. But we have forces from all of these guys going ahead and crossing in. Now, interestingly, Angola is actually a part of this coalition, which you will know is interesting, because these guys were supposed to become a friendly sort of puppet state of the Congo after World War III. However, that did not come into fruition, so they are going to go ahead and join up in this war. And as you may notice, this is all kind of countries that have either been threatened by the Congo or lost a war against the Congo, bar one, which is these guys up here. I don't know why these guys join. I guess they just want free land. But we have the I still don't know what to call this country. I may as well call it Liberia, because this is kind of like the Liberia of this timeline, you know, colonized by the USB in Africa. But that name does not make any sense, so I'm just going to call it the Pink Team. So we have the Pink Team moving in, and they go ahead and move up to the Congo River, which used to be their land. This city used to be theirs, and the people kind of welcome these guys with open arms, although they have been quite heavily assimilated into the Congo. Up north, we have a huge crossing of the Congo River in this kind of very northern section of the Congo country, and this then meets up with this river over here, and this land is just flooded into, and the natural resources of this land immediately goes into funding the war effort of the anti-Congo coalition. Now, I just do want to mention, all of these invasions are happening before the Congo can really have a chance to respond, so the Congo isn't getting blasted here, like they're not fighting back very much at the moment. Of course they are definitely fighting back, but they haven't really had the chance to mobilize their military, so that is why they are getting absolutely destroyed. And yeah, not going great. Moving back over to Angola, we have them getting extremely close to the Congo capital, and they also begin to move up this river, and we also have the Pink Team going ahead and moving in this southern area right over here. However, it is at this point where something is going to be happening that hopefully, or the Congo hopes will be their rescue. As we see an ally go ahead and join them in this war, and I'm going to use a heart because, why not? As we see their faithful ally of Zambia go ahead and declare war on the anti-Congo coalition, and this forms the Congo Resistance League, which is what I'm going to be calling this. So we have the formation of this Congo Resistance League, and this is basically Zambia going ahead and helping out their ally, as they do not want these guys to just come in and impose their will on a country they see as friendly. These guys literally just left the Arrow Alliance with the Congo, and they are very quick to come in and help out. With these guys joining, it doesn't really do much because they aren't the strongest of countries, but what it does do, which is exactly what they were hoping, is catch a bunch of countries off guard, and they hope it will cause reorganization on the fronts, which will allow the Congo to make some major pushbacks. We have Zambia quickly moving into Angola, and, well, like I just said, the military isn't ridiculously strong. Like, it's probably only about half as strong as Angola's military. Because of the fact that Angola has all of their troops up here, these guys do extremely well, and it causes a lot of panic and chaos as well as disorganization on the Angolan fronts, allowing the Congo to make a desperate pushback on this front near the capital. Now, while I kind of show the front lines moving, I do just want to clarify something. I don't know if I've put this thought into your heads that the Congo is a ridiculously strong country and they could just blast everyone. While they are one of the strongest countries in Africa, that does not mean they are a strong country. For instance, they are probably about as strong as Tanzania, Mozambique, and Malawi combined. So they aren't some super strong power that could win this 6v1 on their own. I probably should have clarified that more instead of just kind of saying, oh, they're one of the strongest countries in Africa. So I'm sorry if that did cause any confusion. And that is exactly why we see the pink and blue teams be able to approach the capital over here. Unfortunately for Angola, however, their front lines continue to be pushed back, and we even at this point see the Congo move in, as the Congo's war plan here, which I probably should go into a bit more detail, is knock Angola out of the war as they are seen one of the strongest threats, using the Zambian forces then after in this region, move up here and knock these two guys out of the war, and that leads their only countries that they have to focus on to be the Eastern powers, and that is only a one-front fight which they hope to win. So that is what they are trying to do here. One problem. The Eastern Front is about to get a little bit stronger as we see another country go ahead and join up with the anti-Congo coalition, and that country is going to be the Mozambique country. And this is actually kind of an unlikely alliance, as a lot of these guys had been fighting against each other in World War III. However, they have put their differences aside and they kind of realise, yeah, that wasn't really us hating each other, that was kind of, our Cold War overseers making us hate each other. So you know what? We're going to put aside our differences. All three of these guys were on opposing sides. But yeah, so we have this guy coming in, and this is huge because it allows a second front to be opened against Zambia, and that is the main purpose of them joining. This front has been heavily fortified, so no movements was across it, so Zambia really only had to focus here, but now they have to focus on a fairly strong country, as we have Mozambique go ahead and move in, quickly capturing this one major city, and spearheading towards the centre of this country, hoping to capture the capital. This also allows disorganization in the north, and we see Malawian forces go ahead and cross over the lake and begin to move in the northern regions. Back up north, we have the light blue team continue to do extremely well as they move across the northern kind of jungly areas of the Congo, and like I did say earlier, they are just harvesting all of the resources here, and it's really helping out their war efforts. But if you lose this war, yeah, you're going to get heavily fined, so maybe chill out a bit. But no worries for them, as they do not plan to lose this war, as they go ahead and capture this major city over here, which is a huge win. This is one of the most populated cities in the Congo. We have the pink team go ahead and now fully cross the Congo River, and this includes this area up here, as they meet up with the front line where the light blue team went ahead and captured this one major city. Down in the south, we have Mozambique continue to move in. However, at this point, the Congo's military is fully mobilized, and yes, I know that had taken them a while. This war has been going on for about 2.5 months now, but the Congo is finally ready, and their plan is being set into motion. They basically just fortify the hell out of this front line, and then they begin to just straight up blast Angola. They spearhead down the coast, and this is kind of what they did in World War III. Now, in terms of power relations, I would say since World War III, the Congo has developed and gotten stronger faster than Angola, so they are able to do what they did before even better, although they obviously do have to focus on the other fronts as well. This front line starts to go very not good, as we have these guys crossing into kind of main Congo territory that they hadn't annexed in World War III. And these guys also then moved down south into the Zambians. I'm also going to make this front line all the blue team's colour because it's a little bit less confusing that way. But we have these guys going ahead and capturing this one major city. Over in Angola, we have these guys continue to move into their capital until we have a huge breakthrough take place on the pink team front lines, and this is also the light blue team collaborating as well. And this is extremely bad, as now the pink team has officially reached the capital city of Congo, and this causes a huge amount of disorganization. We have the Angolans managing to make a huge bulge up in this front line over here, and this causes a huge logistical issue for the Congolese forces, causing a huge retreat all the way back to this major city over here. And the forces retreated immediately just go ahead and slam into this pink team front line up here, and this also does use up a lot of Congolese forces. And we also have them being able to push this back, but the effect is still there, as we even have Angola be able to push back in some cases against the Zambians. At this point, however, another country is going to be joining the war, and it's kind of going to be a big distraction for one of the sides. And that is because we are going to go ahead and see Madagascar join in the Heart Alliance. I forgot what name I gave to this thing, but we have them going ahead and siding with the Congo. And this is for a specific reason. They had very recently had tensions with the blue team, and they don't want the blue team to kind of gain power here and then come for them again, as they still have some prospects for these islands. So we have the blue team going ahead and joining up. At this point, Madagascar has really kind of improved on its navy. It kind of been very bad in the early post-World War III stages, as India had kind of evacuated all naval forces during the war. However, now they have managed to establish their own navy, and it's definitely not something to mess with, as we see them begin to move in to the waters around these guys, and they even bombard the capitals of both Mozambique and Malawi, which is a huge win for them. Oh, what the hell? And due to these guys being somewhat distracted, fighting the Congo and Zambia, we have these guys being able to successfully go ahead and make a landing, capturing this one major city right over here, and then they begin to move up north, and they even manage to reach this second one. This causes some pretty big chaos on these front lines over here, mostly in Malawi, as Malawi is the weaker of the two now being invaded. So we have Zambia being able to take big advantage of this to make a huge pushback, being able to fully kick these guys out of the country, and then even moving up north on this front line and encircling a bunch of these Tanzanian forces, and about 15,000 Tanzanians are encircled here. This also allows a minor pushback over here, however in the north the blue team is still doing very well. Oh, and would you look at that, another salty World War III country goes ahead and joins in. So we have the maroon sort of country go ahead and join in. These guys, they are also salty of World War III, and they are salty against the yellow team, and yeah, they want their land back. So we have these guys going ahead and moving in, and this kind of puts on hold the distraction over here, as now it's kind of more so evened out. Like, you know, we've got a distraction over here, but then we've also got one over here. And also I think it's probably at this point where I should give a name to this war. This war is going to be known as the Second Congo War, because the first Congo War was between Tanzania, the red team, and the Congo. Definitely not a reference to anything IRL. But we have these guys being able to capture this one major city, and things are going very good at the moment. That is until another country joins in on the war, and this country joining is going to be very not good. Good grammar. And that is because we have South Africa go ahead and joining up with the Congolese and the Zambians. The South Africans have been on the rise recently. They are now one of the strongest countries in the, they're the top 10 country in the world. They are the second strongest country in Africa, that's what I was trying to say. And they are the strongest country that has thus far participated in this war. And this is going to be heavily turning the tides. The South Africans having their ambitions over I guess I should call this like the Soto or something. Their ambitions over the Dark Purple team are very major, and they are going to take big advantage of this to go ahead and move in, a big advantage of the war rather, and they just storm in. These guys were not only not expecting this, but they are also, they can't really do much, I'm not going to lie. These guys are very weak compared to South Africa. I'd probably say South Africa is like 4 or 5 times stronger than these guys. Yeah, it's that bad. We have these guys meeting up over here, and this causes something pretty big to happen, and this is something that had been planned before South Africa had joined. We have the Madagascarians going ahead and making a landing here, going ahead and joining up with the South African front lines. as their main goal is to kind of capture this whole coastal region. At this point, and yeah, this was still getting bigger, we have another country joining the anti-Congo League. We have the red team going ahead and joining up against the Congo. These guys are another salty country, and they don't like how now South Africa's in, as that looks like it might make the Congolese win this war, which they do not want. So we have these guys quickly going ahead and crossing in into the yellow team, and these guys are going to do extremely well capturing this major city. This portion of the front line over here is also going ahead and handed over to the red team, and this also causes a pretty major encirclement to happen, as we have these guys going ahead and taking this land right over here. At this point, it's really starting to not go very well for Zambia, as they are kicked out of all opposing countries, as we even have Angola begin to move in. However, the effect of South Africa joining in on this war is still very well felt, as we have a lot of these countries going ahead and moving their forces down to the south, and this allows the Congo to make a huge pushback, more specifically against these guys as they are able to move some troops from other front lines over here. We have these guys just slamming into the pink team, and the pink team is, they're really going to struggle with this, I'm not going to lie. We have the Congolese go ahead and capture this one major city, and then they quickly begin to move towards the capital. Shortly after, it will be encircled, and then it's going to go ahead and fall over. And eventually, after a little bit more of manoeuvring around in this country, we have it going ahead and fully capitulating over, and not wasting any time, the Congo then immediately goes ahead and moves into the blue team, who is forced to pull their forces out of this northern region to defend the homeland. I also just really quickly went ahead and coloured these guys in with their respective alliances, so it should be a little bit easier to see. But we have the South Africans continuing to roll on through, and they also begin to move into the red country. However, the red country actually does surprisingly well at holding these guys off. We also have the Madagascarian push continue to move in, and with the Malawian front lines basically collapsing, we have their capital going ahead and being captured, so, there's some karma. But we have these guys continuing to move in, and eventually, after an extremely impressive movement that is heavily funded and supported by the South Africans, we have these guys being severed in two, and this is a huge win because it cuts off Tanzania from the rest of their allies, and this also comes along with a coordinated Congo invasion. We have the Congo just immediately blitzing through and sprinting troops towards this city over here. This also leads to another country joining. We have the Congo going over to the Victorian country, and they're like, yo, if you join this war, we'll give you money and land. Say no more. So we have these guys going ahead and joining up as well, and they begin to blitz into the Tanzanians. So this point as well, where the Zambians begin to recover some control of their front lines, pushing back especially against Mozambique and the deep pink country. And eventually we have the front lines looking something like this, as we also have South Africa continue to move on through, and they just begin to slap these guys around. It's really an unfair fight. The difference in terms of strategy as well is also very heavily in the favour of the South Africans. We also have, at this point, these guys definitely not suspiciously collapsing, and it may or may not have had something to do with the fact that South Africa was really trying to get these guys to join in on the war, but then these guys were also trying to get them to join in on the war on their own side, and the government basically just collapsed, and South Africa's like, yo, they joined us. Now we're joining them in invading them. Bye-bye. So they basically just move in and annex this territory, and this further funds and helps out the war effort, as now they have a direct front line with the red team, and they quickly move in and go ahead and capture this capital. Also, I do not know what is this, but it's gone now. At this point, the South Africans are really cooking as they just continue to move up north, and we also have the Madagascarians continue to move around, capturing the capital of the dark pink team. And at this point, there is going to be an event happening that is basically going to be the final nail in the coffin for one of these sides, and that's going to be a new country joining on the Congo side, and that country is going to be Nigeria. And do I really need to say anything? Probably not, because, yeah, goodbye. Nigeria, seeing the opportunity to gain some land out of the light blue team, is going to take that very readily, and they quickly move in, and they even able to capture the capital before the Congo, which is quite impressive, and the rest of this land is going to be blitzed through by the Congo, and eventually we have the country fully falling over with occupation zones looking something like this. At this point, these two countries have been knocked out of the war, and it's also about the same time as that, where we have Malawi go ahead and surrender, and these guys are going to fully come under the occupation of Madagascar. However, we do have Tanzania attempt to save some of this northern land. However, that does not work out, as these guys are just going to roll on through, quickly capture it, and then meet up with the Congolese front lines. And these guys are now beginning to get very close to the capital area of Tanzania. In the north, we have Victoria continuing to move around the lake, now fully capturing it, so good for you, I guess. Not very useful, though. And we also have this land over here coming under the occupation of the Congo. And as the Congolese forces approach the capital of Tanzania, the Tanzanians are going to be capitulating and leaving the war. And just like that, all of the northern allies have been knocked out, and now the only front lines are in the very disorganised south. And do I really need to say much? Well, first of all, South Africa is just going to destroy these guys. They've already lost about half of their land, and yeah, you're not going to be able to recover from that. And these guys have lost their capital, and they literally only have one major city. Okay, not anymore. And they fall over as well, so good job, guys. Now it's just Mozambique and Angola, and yeah, that's not great. We also have these guys losing their occupation zones. I forgot to show that. But eventually, with the Angolan capital being captured, Angola is going to go over and go to Mozambique, and they're going to be like, yeah, we lost, let's just go ahead and surrender. And they are going to be holding a meeting with the Congo in the capital of the Victorian country, and this will be known as the Treaty of Victoria, and this is going to be greatly redrawing the borders of Southern Africa. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at this peace treaty. So this is what we are going to be seeing for our peace treaty here, and as we can see, there has been a lot of border changes, but overall, most things do stay somewhat the same, except for in one specific area. So first of all, I'm going to start with the country land gains. So starting with, the man himself, the Congo, the start of this war, the Congo annexes this small chunk of land out of the blue team. This is kind of just a little bit of spoil they want. They gain this small amount of land out of the pink team, and as you may notice, they're kind of just taking some small chunks of land just to kind of boost their economy and population. They don't really want to massively expand from this war, as, that wasn't their goal. They take this small amount of land from Angola, and they also take this land from Tanzania, so despite the fact that they only take small chunks out of countries, they actually do expand quite a lot here. Next up, moving over to Nigeria, we see them take some of these smaller northern provinces up here. Now these guys are a very interestingly shaped country. Moving over to Victoria, we see them go ahead and annex this land over here. Now they have a second point of connection up with the Congo. Moving over to Zambia, we see them go ahead and annex this land. Now they finally have access to the coast, which is a huge win for them. And finally, we have the Madagascarians go ahead and annex this port province from the Mozambiques. And now, finally, and this is also the final border change down here, we have the South Africans expand greatly. So, obviously, and this kind of wasn't all to do with the war, this was kind of like something that was happening anyway, but it kind of joined in with the war. The South Africans go ahead and annex the Cape Country, or the remnants of it rather, as this country had basically just become a puppet of South Africa. Next up, we see them annex this small chunk of land out of the red team. And finally, they are going to be annexing this chunk of land out of the purple team. So they actually expand a lot. They probably gain about 2/5 extra landmass. But yeah, that is what we're going to be seeing there. And now that we've discussed the land changes and the spoils that the victors of this war go ahead and gain, we need to move over to the military alliances layer, because this is actually going to be causing something to happen. As some of these countries, they kind of realize that they need to maintain order in this region, because that war was very kind of revenge driven, and they want to make sure something like that does not happen again. So we have the formation of the Southern African Defensive Pact, aka I actually don't know what shape to give this alliance. I may as well do it a gear, because we don't have a gear. And this, what the hell, and this alliance is going to be formed by the Congo and Zambia, and immediately a couple other countries are going to go ahead and join it, and these countries are going to be including the Victorian country over here. The Madagascarian country over here goes ahead and joins pretty quickly, and I think that is probably going to be it for now. So yeah, that is what we're going to be seeing in the peace treaty there, and that is actually going to be it for this episode. I really hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, please do be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and also feel free to leave any suggestions in the comments below. I'm very much open to taking suggestions, because I already have this era planned out, but there are a lot of areas where I could just do other minor things that don't really affect the story too much, and that could be kind of like a bit of a community input thing. So yeah, if you guys do want to go ahead and do that, please be sure to leave a comment down below, and I will see you guys in the next episode.